Well, that was a brilliantly compelling presentation from Vice President Gore, and certainly has fired me up. But let's not kid ourselves. Grabbing the attention of world leaders to focus in on this vitally important issue with everything else that's going on in the world today is no easy task, and is going to require real outcomes from the summit in New York in September, and is going to require that summit to make a real impact. And the Secretary General alone cannot deliver such an outcome to the high-level summit in September without our help. It's going to need all of us to play a role in creating the momentum at that summit in September, to galvanise the political will, to argue the economic case, and to exert political pressure from civil society in both the North and the South in order to create a sufficient geopolitical tipping point that's really going to put rocket boosters under the climate negotiations to give us a fighting chance of a successful and sufficiently ambitious outcome to the COP in Paris in 2015. And we must realise that we are being given a second chance to avert catastrophic man-made climate change that we failed to grasp collectively in 2009 at Copenhagen. But the good news is, as was put up in lights by the Vice President in his presentation, that the scope for action has shifted dramatically since those negotiations in Copenhagen 5 years ago. Now, there are several key factors which mean that we ought to be more capable of achieving a successful outcome now than we did then. Firstly, the science, as has been spelt out, it's even more compelling than ever. And AR5 really spelt that out loud and clear. The risks of taking actions are clearly now less than the risks of inactivity and inertia. Not for a few, but for all of us. And secondly, the economics. We now understand the detail. We can see the route to a low-carbon economy far better than we did in 2009. We can have greater confidence in the technology and have far greater visibility on the costs of such a transition. Successful global economies are actually now proving in real time that you can grow prosperity and reduce carbon emissions at the same time. Take the UK. The UK is now the fastest growing economy in the EU, in fact in the G7. Yet we have reduced our carbon emissions by 25% and are on track to reduce emissions by 80% by 2050. We're actually doing it. And it's vital, therefore, in September that we come together and all put up great show-and-tell arguments. And methane is a really good example of where practical action, combining both public action and the private sector, can really make a difference. It's based on sound science, because methane is 80 times more powerful, and it's based on sound business sense, because capturing it is actually making fossil fuel companies more efficient and more competitive. So send from the ascent, here in the UAE, here in the heart of the fossil fuel producing world, a very clear message to the oil and gas companies that we need them to join with the progressive leaders and actually get a grip on their supply chain, reduce those emissions, make a real impact and play a part in this low carbon transition. Minister.